Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwath and listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Okwai.
And Brother Barak.
And for today's lesson, we kind of wanted to go through some a topic in regards to how our food is defiled, and how essentially, like the scriptures say, that we have to go to our enemies for the want of all things, and how essentially that food has become a weapon against us, and pretty much being able to I guess do good unto yourself. I guess that's one aspect we can touch on, but also touch on the aspect of how the heathens don't have the mind of Yahweh Bashim Yoshai, especially Esau, right? So what Esau has done is pretty much weaponize the food, and it's caused us to be able to you don't get the amount of nutrients that it's supposed to have, because he doesn't follow instruction. He's not a man of instruction, right? So
and then they put all these pesticides in our food, the glyphosate.
Oh, Khan, exactly.
It has a lot of negative effects when it comes to humans.
Khan, exactly. So you see that the like the scriptures talk about how the soul that is within him is not upright. An upright individual wouldn't do these things to the food, because the food is essentially it's a necessity for life. It's not supposed to actually bring you upon harm, right? So I don't know if you have any scriptures you want to touch on, or you want me to.
Yeah, I could bring up one. I have here Leviticus 22:8. So that which dieth of itself or is torn with beasts, he shall not eat to defile himself therewith. I am Yahweh. That's where it ends, because a lot of these animals that die in their captivity, if you look at there's a lot of movies that go into how these farm animals are raised in horrible conditions, and a lot of them die from sickness or just die from getting beat to death, and they still feed us these foods. They ground it up or cut it up and then sell it either way, right? And then to add on to that, when they die in that state, where all those stress hormones are running through their meat, through all their blood and their meat and everything, right?
Wow, interesting.
And we're eating all these stress hormones, so that makes the meat even worse for us. It's already not good because they're feeding garbage, and then we're eating that as well. But all the stress hormones that are running through the meat, it's just like how this is another topic kind of, but it's just like how Esau, when they sacrifice children and things, they'll make sure they're in a scared state, because they feel like, I think they say their blood is richer when they drink it because of that, right? But
I wouldn't be surprised, but like knowing them is just like, yo, these people are not upright, so they'll do they take pleasure in doing wickedness, right? The ways of righteousness is not the way of the Most High, is not in their thoughts, right? So unless you have anything else you want to add, or
that was it on that specific scripture.
Oh, okay. I've got one. This is Isaiah 24. I'll start at verse 4, and it says, "The earth mourneth and fadeth away, and the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth is also defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant." Right. So I wanted to bring this out because it also shows you, being under captivity. This is the spirit that these heathens are in, especially Esau, because he is not operating with the mindset of actually trying to implement the law, statutes, and commandments, in order to actually nurture and bring forth life. Right. He's not operating on that vibration. He operates on a wicked vibration. So what he does, he corrupts the food. Another example is he doesn't allow the food to properly even mature, because he's something that's very impatient. And I'll give you an example. There was an article I was reading about tomatoes. So now tomatoes, for brothers who may not know, they produce their own ethylene gas, which gives it its reddish color. But what Esau does, he picks those and harvests them, prior to them actually maturing properly, and then he puts them in an artificial ethylene gas chamber, so they become red. But just because it turns red, it doesn't mean that it's actually ripe, right? So this is the vibration of actually living under the heathens. So that's just tomatoes. This is one example. That could be other fruits and vegetables that you do, that you like, that you use, that he's doing the same thing under, because he's somebody who is impatient. The ways of righteousness is not within him to do, right? That's why it's important for our people to understand that this is the condition that we're in, but also understanding the right way of how it's supposed to be done.
Because everywhere he goes, destruction follows, man. He doesn't care about the repercussions of what he does. He just wants what he wants now. You always just think about, okay, I'll make money from this, but I'll destroy a whole forest. Like, but they don't care about that. They don't care about what lives in that forest, how it affects the ecosystem, how things are supposed to be. They don't care about any of that. I have a piece up here, Job 21 and 13. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore, they say unto our power, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is it? What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? So all they're thinking of is their own mind, right? Their own selfish wants and themselves. They see themselves as a god, right? They're like, oh, I have all this money. Why do I need God? I have all this money. All that matters is what I'm doing and my boss and my work and my. I believe in spiritual entities, but God isn't real.
Yeah.
Or they might not even believe. They might just believe in evolution. Say foolishness along those lines, man. Just so you're saying this magical man came and created Earth. Okay, so you're saying this random spark just blew up the earth and now we're perfectly created. Come on. Verse 16. Lo, their good is not in their hand, and the counsel of the wicked is far from me. How oft is the candle of the wicked put out? How oft cometh their destruction upon them? Yahweh distributed sorrows in his anger. So we're waiting for. Actually, I want to see if I can read this last part in NLT. The verse, Job 21 and verse 17 NLT. Yet the light of the wicked never seems to be extinguished. Do they ever have trouble? Does our power distribute sorrows to them in anger? So that's our people wondering when this foolishness is going to end and when they're going to be destroyed, because they're always going off, just creating more and more destruction around them and more just bringing our people down and bringing down their people with our people. Because they don't care, man. These small hats and so-called elite.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, he's not somebody that cares about repercussions, because the Most High is not in his thoughts. Right,
the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, man. Right. Cover the faces of the judges thereof.
Right. But just to add to a point you made earlier in regards to how destruction follows them, this is Revelation 6 and 4, and it says, and they went out another horse that was red, and the power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword, right? So going back to Esau's blessing in Genesis, I believe it was the 27th chapter, it shows you that was his blessing, and then he would acquire the fatness of the earth, right? He's also that rich man that you read about in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, right? Lazarus representing you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and you speckled-bird Israelites, right? But he's the one that is taking peace from the earth, and he has weaponized absolutely everything, even down to your food, down to your clothing, down to the way our music. We were just talking about that with the vibration. He's weaponized even that, and it has caused our people to essentially err. So our people take on that wicked vibration because they're being ruled over by somebody who is wicked.
Right? And part of that goes into I guess what I quoted a second ago. They covered the faces of the judges thereof. So our people, they're leading our people astray while also hiding our past. So our people don't have any guidance. Our people don't have the right elders. Parents don't know their real past. Don't know how to lead their children, and so it's just a cycle of being led astray and going off and going further and further off, because the only fake light that they have, a light that's made by AI, let's say, is made by Esau. So a lot of Jake think they're walking towards this righteous path. They're like, oh, Elon Musk this and whatever not. And what's that philosopher from Toronto called? Jordan Peterson. They love Jordan Peterson. A lot of them like, oh yeah, he said this about the Bible, and the real meaning of is this. He's conceptual. They're saying this foolishness, right? They're walking towards this false light.
Right,
They're
right.
not on that narrow path, man.
Yeah, but the Lord deals with the lowly if they've actually read the scriptures, right?
Con,
So the scriptures you would find wisdom in the chief place of concords. That's what you would really find, like true wisdom and understanding, right? These guys like Elon Musk, and I think it was also Bill Gates too. People revere these people as beacons of understanding, but the scriptures say that the wisdom of this world is foolish, right? They don't have any wisdom in these people, and also it also says that
con,
the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, because Bill Gates, for example, I don't know if it was this year or last year, he was cutting down a bunch of the trees. Like there are certain trees, like going back into the law, you're not even supposed to cut, because it actually, as a matter of fact, let me find that. um
con. Because again, they don't care. He'll
exactly.
cut down his trees just so he can get rich and make his devices and whatever not.
Right, he's just somebody who cares about money.
Money and numbers.
Right.
Even if he believes that he's gonna become a robot and live forever, he believes that he can somehow, maybe he believes he can create robotic trees, man. Just that's how they think.
Oh man. Hold on. If you have something, you can go ahead. Let me just find that one on the
Con,
tree.
James 4:17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. And hey, that's what Esau does. That's what he did right off the bat, man.
Mm.
He knew, he knew they were supposed to sacrifice animals, but he brought fruit to the altar.
But I was Cain.
That's a lot, but
Con, yeah, yeah.
that's in the spirit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Con,
In
I
the
get what you
spirit,
said. Yeah, yeah.
in the spirit. But that's an example of what kind of stuff Esau does. He
Mm.
always tries to find the gray area. Well, how can he break? How can he almost do it, almost follow it, but not really, right?
Mm.
Always looking for these gray areas. And another precept I have here, Proverbs 29:2. When the
Con,
righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's, man,
con.
that's been the state of the world for a while, especially right now. And you can see this a lot more with all of technology, because people can communicate more, the news, social media.
Right.
People are mourning all over. People in our generation don't even know how they're going to buy a house. They don't know how they can survive. They're barely surviving. We're living paycheck to paycheck, right? They're looking at the state of the world. They're like, a lot of these people are losing, or don't have. A lot of them never really had a real meaning to life, but now they're losing whatever meaning they had, because they trusted in the world. They
Con.
trusted in the world, and the world is failing them now.
Yeah, yeah,
And now
yeah.
they're just
Trust and
crumbling in
oppression.
their fake faith.
Yeah, it's the world is like these people, like especially you Israelites more specifically, like these people have you essentially, you're in a spiritual wilderness, and then you have the prophets actually giving you understanding the how to actually go back and come back to the Most High, how Shai. That's when you're really going to get true food and true understanding, because Yahweh Shai even said it himself, man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the Most High, to roughly paraphrase, right? So
Come,
it's a lot more than um just knowing that you're an Israelite. It's a lot more to it than that. And it comes with an understanding of how to actually govern, yourself. If you have a woman, knowing how to do that, knowing how to administer onto that, and then knowing how to raise your children, and knowing how to actually properly eat, because the way we're supposed to eat, that's in the law, because we have dietary laws for a reason. You can't just eat anything.
come,
You know what I'm saying? I'm still looking for that precept. I can't find it.
come.
Um,
So yeah, man, they
hold on.
all their so-called knowledge is left hand side.
Exactly, which is knowledge, but it's not wisdom, right?
Con. That's why it's funny, man. People always say, "Oh, well, this guy's he's really smart. He knows a
Yeah,
lot. He has a lot of knowledge." But again, that's knowledge of the world isn't valid
yeah,
in the scriptures, man. And these sciences too are just based off similarities when it comes to things, right? They're making science is based off. I forgot. I think the definition is something along those lines, where it's based off assumptions, science. But people always say, "Oh, believe in the science." Just like during the lockdowns, trust the science. Where did the science lead you? Right? It's very foolishness, man.
just to add to what you're saying, there's a lot of basketball players, getting blood clots.
Some of
You
the
know,
supposedly healthiest people.
yeah. So they that's what happens. And the science, and when the word science just means knowledge in Ciencia in Latin,
That's what I was looking for.
right?
And
So
Psalm, I have a precept on that. Psalms
con
10:2.
con.
The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what happened with a lot of these people during the
Right.
during the lockdown and stuff, man.
Right.
They're
Right.
talking
Right.
about, oh yeah, we're gonna save it. You gotta take it. You have to take it. We're gonna have to save everybody, and it's continuing to happen in other areas too.
Mm.
Verse 3: For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous whom Yahweh abhorreth. Right? And I'll read
Yeah.
it in NLT for us easier to understand. Verse
Con.
3 again, Psalms 10 and verse 3: For they brag about their evil desires, they praise the greedy and curse Yahweh. The wicked
Mm.
are too proud to seek Yahweh. They seem to think that Yahweh is dead.
Wow.
No,
That's
man,
Esau's
because
mindset.
God, he's not in their thoughts, man.
Yeah. Exactly. I just had that quick preset just to back up that point I brought out. Deuteronomy 20, verse 19, just in regards to the trees, because you mentioned the trees, they also serve as food and shelter for certain animals, right? So this is Deuteronomy 20, verse 19, and it says, when you are attacking a town and the war drags on, I'm reading in the NLT, you must not cut down the trees with your axes. You may eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. Are the trees your enemies? That why you should attack them? You may only cut trees that you know are not valuable for food. Use them to make the equipment you need to attack the enemy town until it falls. Right? So there's certain trees you keep them there because they're beneficial for food, right?
Because even if you overtake that place, now you're not going to have any nutrients, or the land's going to be destroyed.
Exactly.
Because you destroyed everything to get that place. At what cost? What was the point?
Exactly. And what about the welfare? Like, if, say, for example, you're leading an army, you're leading a charge, what happens to your men? They're depleted, they're tired, they need nutrients. You need to look after the welfare of those men also, right? So that's why that when this is more, I guess, in regards to laws of warfare, but that is a smart thing to do. But what Esau does, he exterminates everything. He has no filtering system, right? Because it's not upright. It's not in him to do upright, right? He's a backwards individual, right?
Gone. Even the land Sabbath.
Oh, I have that too.
That's yeah,
You have it?
Leviticus 25.
Okay, you can read it. You can read it.
Even the land Sabbath, because that's why you mentioned before we started here that a lot of the nutrients that are in fruit today are at a lower quantity, because they don't keep the land Sabbath. So the land, like, that's where the fruit or the trees are. That's where they're getting all their nutrients from. So if the ground is desolate, what's it creating? You're putting your seed into a desolate ground. But Leviticus 25 and 3, 6 years thou shalt sow the field. I should have started 2. Why not? Start at 2. Leviticus 25 and 2. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yahweh.
Right. So if I just made that point, that's why the rest portion for the land is so important. In agriculture, it's known as land fallowing, where you leave the land without actually planting anything, because when you go through, there's a way to know that soil is healthy, and soil has to have proper nutrients. For example, it needs its nitrogen, it needs its phosphorus, it needs potassium, and a couple of other nutrients also to actually to nurture healthy seed, right? All these nutrients are important to actually to bring forth proper and good harvest. But Esau doesn't think like that, to actually allow the land to rest. Just like it's a Sabbath right now, we need a day to rest, right? Esau, doesn't do those particular practices. So, what happens is he operates on a mindset about money. So he does more farming practices such as monoculture, where you only plant one crop, but you get as much yield as possible. So what does that do? It destroys, and the quality of the soil. It leads to more erosion, right? And it leads to, yes, you get more profits, but you get less nutrients, like you were just saying. So continue.
But yeah, they don't care about the nutrients.
Come on.
They don't care, because they're not eating that stuff. They're like, they know it's garbage.
That's true. That's true.
6 years thou shalt sow the field, and 6 years thou shalt prune the vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yahweh. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of the vineyard undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land.
Right. So you have to let the land rest. That's a good. That's an important farming practice. That's within our culture. Obviously, we don't. A lot of us don't have access, to land and to be able to do that. But this is what part of coming back to our culture actually does, and gives us more understanding of how the world should be governed, right? So knowing in the kingdom of heaven is going to be like this, right? It's going to be properly done, and then your fruit's going to be able to have more. They're going to be a lot bigger, and they're going to be a lot, more richer, right? When you go to the store today, they're not as big as they used to be.
You don't feel satiated after you eat some of these fruits.
Gone, exactly. That's true. It's true. You have to eat a lot more, and you get a lot less. So essentially, what you're experiencing is an inflation with fruits.
Especially these, and then now they have the ones that are man-made nowadays.
Oh,
So it's
like
not even grown
Beyond
by
Meat?
con. I forgot the exact word is, but it's not even made by man. They grow artificial fruits,
Oh,
and then
wow.
they tell you it's safe to consume, and then people believe that just because they said it's safe to consume, just like just like the sea hit. They said that was safe.
Con. Yeah,
It's
they
pure
did say. Yeah,
foolishness.
they did say that booster juice was safe. That's not safe. And we've seen the fruits. You've seen the fruits of their so-called labor.
And people still believe in them.
Wow, man, it's gross darkness out here, man.
Con.
Yeah. Anything else, or you?
No, that's pretty much all I have here.
Okay, I wanted to get. Actually, hold on.
I guess while you're looking, I can bring out this one here.
Yeah.
Psalms,
Go ahead.
Psalms 14:2. And Yahweh looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek Yahweh. They are all gone aside, they are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Have all the workers of iniquity no knowledge? Who eat up my people as they eat bread, and call not upon our power? There were they in great fear, for Yahweh is in the generation of righteousness, of the righteous. So we look down and you see all these people. He's like, none of you guys have knowledge, man. What's wrong with you guys?
That's true.
You guys don't know anything after everything I've taught you and passed down, and still don't. Even if they see it, they scoff at it. Just like when brothers are preaching on the streets, people look. They're like, niggas.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's mostly our people that think of us like that because they regard they care more about how the messenger looks rather than the actual message.
Gone.
So that's why a lot of we're kind of hidden in plain sight when we're teaching on the highways and byways, right? You had anything else, or you're?
No, that's all I have.
I just had a quick account, real quick, just to feeling recharged. This is 1 Samuel 14. Okay, I'll just jump down to the point. Well, I'll start at 24, but I'll just jump down to the point. And it said, and the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food until the evening, and I may be avenged of mine enemies. So none of the people tasted any food, right? So I'll just jump down to the portion where it talks about Jonathan, and it says, Then said Jonathan, verse 29, My father had troubled the land. See, I pray you, my eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. Right. So, and I'm just reading this because it shows you Jonathan's reaction after he had the honey, and then when a lot of the foods that we eat today, we don't get that reaction. We don't get that satiation like you're referring to, right? So you can't imagine, he just had a little bit, and he was rejuvenated. But in this time, living under these people, these wicked people, especially Esau, Edom, right? We have to eat a lot more and get a little of those nutrients. we don't get as much nutrients and satiations as we should have, if we were living under a righteous kingdom. That's why it's important, to be living under a righteous kingdom. That's what we want. That's what we're waiting for.
Right? You have a fruit smoothie, you should be ready to fight an army, man.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And honey is one of those things that's the chief things. As a matter of fact,
because honey is supposed to be rich. It's created by the land, by bees. They collect the nutrients from different plants, the pollen, and then they create this honey. So it's supposed to be very, very rich, full of nutrients. Like that's why there's something called bee pollen as well. You can buy bee pollen. It's full of antioxidants and micronutrients. Very nutritious. Honey is supposed to be the same thing, but with carbs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because the bees harvest this stuff from the land itself, because that's what the bees feed their larvae, and that's how they grow. They create more bees.
But then the bees are disappearing.
Because they keep destroying the land.
Exactly. So you see how it all kind of ties in. It's all full circle. But just that last precept, just to kind of add off and back you up. This is Sirach 39 verse 26, and it says the principal things for a whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil, and clothing. All these things are for the good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned to evil, right? So all these things are beneficial to a man's life, and honey being one of them, right? Salt, iron, but Esau has essentially corrupted all these things, even something as simple as water. Like, it doesn't have the electrolytes, it doesn't have the important nutrients that it needs, and it's not alive, it's just dead.
You drink water and you're still thirsty, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Now you have to add salt, you have to add potassium to the water so that you're getting some of the minerals that you actually need, because water is supposed to be full of minerals. Now you drink water and it strips your body of minerals. That doesn't make no damn sense.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But that's pretty much it. Unless you had anything else.
No, that's it. Hopefully you brothers and sisters are edified. Let us give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching this truth in sincerity. And peace and mercy to the hopeful elect that are pushing this word, and salutations to the Akim and a few sisters that may be listening. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.